Okay, here's the thing about the new Audi A6. I shouldn't like it because I'm a massive car nut, and what matters to me more than anything else is the way a car drives and the way it feels when you get it out on the road, the way it responds, the way it talks to you. And the thing is that this new A6 is almost no fun to drive at all. It's got really light, slightly over-assisted steering. It's front-wheel drive, so it's fine. I mean, it's steady and stable and sure-footed, but it's not fun in the corners or anything like that. So really, I shouldn't like it all that much at all, and yet I find myself almost loving it. This is a really phenomenally well-crafted car. It's just so beautifully put together, so refined, so comfortable that I just can't help liking it rather a lot, actually. Now, you might struggle to tell that it's all new from the outside. Indeed, you might struggle to tell it apart from the smaller A4 and the larger A8, because Audi is still very much into its rut, if rut is the right word, of cookie-cutter styling, of making all its cars look like all its other cars. But to be honest, again, I'm not that bothered about that here, because this is a really well-executed design. Cookie-cutter though it may be, it's very crisp, it's very sharp, it looks really good, and actually there's more subtlety and there's more complexity in it the closer and the longer that you look at it. If you look at the way that the headlights are undercut and the shape of the front bumper, it almost looks like they're trying to create a sort of outrigger design to the outer edges of the bodywork. It's really quite interesting. And of course, it's gorgeous in here too. You've got the same twin screen layout that you get in the A8 and the A7 Coupe. Now, we need to talk about that a little bit, because I know why car companies are trying to ban and banish interior buttons and physical switches. It's because these systems have become so complex that you would need a 747's worth of switches and buttons over here to be able to operate everything. But I'm still not sure about getting rid of everything. Thankfully, Audi has kept a physical volume knob, so that's helpful. And thankfully, there are some shortcut buttons for certain functions. But putting everything onto the screen is, I think, only partially successful. It does work reasonably well because there is haptic feedback, so when you push the screen, it pushes back against your finger, so you feel like you're activating a proper switch, and that is helpful, but still, it takes, for me, more time and more distraction. My eyes have to come off the road and go down here when I'm looking for a function, when I'm adjusting the car on the move, and, well, that's just not quite as good. It's better up here where we've got the big 12.3-inch virtual cockpit display. That hasn't really changed, but that doesn't really need to change because it's still one of the best in the business. It looks great. The Google Maps effect is really quite stunning, and it's fairly easy to control with the buttons here on the steering wheel. What really gets you about this car, though, is the refinement. Now, part of that is helped by the fact that it's got double glazed side glass, so effectively it's like sitting in your lounge at home, doubly so because these seats are amazingly comfortable. It's a really lovely place in which to spend some time in this cabin, particularly on a long journey. The engine is so hushed. It's a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel with 204 horsepower and 400 newton meters of torque, and it's helped by being a mild hybrid. It's a 12-volt system, not the cleverer, chunkier, more powerful 48-volt system that you'll find in the A7 and the A8 and indeed the Q7, but it's still very effective at helping you to save fuel. This is one of those cars that gets very, very close to its claimed fuel economy figures in daily driving. It'll easily bust past the 50 mile per gallon barrier, and in fact I've been having quite a hard time getting it to do much worse than that, which, considering that I'm driving with the air conditioning going, there's a lot of motorway mileage involved, all that sort of thing, it's really quite impressive. The thing about it being no fun to drive is an odd one. The steering is overlight, it is over-assisted, it doesn't chat to you in corners the way that, say, a BMW 5 Series does, that a Mercedes E-Class does, and most especially the way that a Jaguar XF does. So it does boil down to that thing of how much does driving dynamics matter to you as a driver. For most of us, it's probably not that much, really, is it? But it would be nice to have a bit more feel and feedback. I suspect that with optional Quattro 4-wheel drive, it would probably be a bit better. What would probably be a bit better as well with Quattro is the way this car responds from a standing start, and that is where this car does have one serious flaw. the way the engine responds when you're coming off a stop-start cycle, when you're trying to pull out of a tight junction, and anything below 1500 RPM, there's just nothing. The response is absolutely flat, and you will find yourself pulling out of awkward junctions, kind of hanging halfway across the junction, possibly with traffic coming at you, while you wait for the engine to wake up properly and kick in. I do think that needs some serious and significant adjustment. It's partially a problem with the engine, partially a problem with the DSG gearbox. We've seen it in other Audi models. Really, it needs to be sorted because it could be potentially quite dangerous. That aside, as I said on the way in, this is a very accomplished, beautifully finished, really expertly made car. No, it isn't fun to drive, but frankly, sitting here in comfort and silence and with terrific fuel economy for the long journey ahead, I just don't care.